All right, let's get started. Thank you everyone for joining us both on Discord and on Twitter. Today, in this AMA, we'll be covering part 2 of our tokenomics, which we released 2 days ago, I think. So yeah, let's just get right into the questions. For those who aren't aware, you can post your questions in the AMA questions channel in our Discord. So yeah, let's get to the first question. We have Binox asking, can you please recap the distinction between the NFT project and the IDO? Because I feel like there are members of the community who still can't describe this. Yeah, so I guess one of the issues is that like a lot of people assume there's a strong connection between the NFTs and our token, the LFNTY token. And if you have a flare, then you do get 1% of the LFNTY supply. Or not to you, like all flare holders collectively will receive 1% of the token supply. So that is basically as far as the connection goes. Other than that, the two things are basically entirely separate. So let's see. How else should I describe this? So I think the way to think about the flares is that they are basically their own independent liquidity provider. Their liquidity comes from the funds we raised in the NFT sale. We basically just deposited all into our liquidity pools. And yeah, that keeps growing. And so in that sense, they're basically a liquidity provider. And then as a bonus, they get 1% of the token supply. On the other hand, we have the LFNTY token, which will be our governance token. This is not released yet. We're going to have an IDO at the end of March or in April. And this will, yeah, so I guess one important distinction is that the flares, what do they govern? They govern the flares that we buy back using the trading fees and the royalties. And that is the only thing that they govern. They do not govern the Lifinity, the DEX. And then you have the LFNTY token. This is the governance token of Lifinity, the DEX. We'll get into the details of what exactly LFNTY will be governing in a future article in the Tokenomics series. But yeah, basically the flares govern the bought back flares, and then Lifinity tokens govern Lifinity's DEX, is the TLDR. I hope that's clear enough. If there's any other distinctions that I need to make between the two, just let me know and I can clarify. Good question, because it's a common point of confusion. So yeah, thanks for that. All right, next question. We have Briss Stewart asks, I'm new here 1 week, and I'm not sure what the benefit of my cool looking NFT will be after the IDO. Thanks. Okay, so let's see. After the IDO, the thing that changes is that after the IDO is when we're going to begin distributing the LFNTY tokens, the 1% of the supply that we've promised to the flare holders. So right now, we're not distributing that because the LFNTY token isn't even live yet. So after the IDO, that token will go live, and then we'll begin the distributions to the flare holders. So what will be the benefit of your NFT after the IDO? So basically nothing changes. The value accrual mechanisms through the trading fees and the royalties that are used to both buy back the flares from the market and also to reinvest into the liquidity pools that's generating the trading fees for the buybacks. Those will just keep going on. They will continue forever. So yeah, I hope that answers that question. All right, moving on, we have JY3D asks, how does staking multiple NFTs work, or will it? Right. So, as some of you know, we have like huge holders. Namely, our largest holder is Norbert from Synthetify. He has over 1,000 flares. So, if he had to stake them one by one, that would kind of suck. So, we are looking into ways to make that easier. How you could stake multiple flares at once or have the transactions be generated automatically for all of them. And then you can just do the auto approve thing on Phantom. Then it'll just like do all of them for you at once, like something like that. We're thinking of the way to make it as painless as possible for those holding multiple NFTs. Maybe that wasn't what you're referring to. Sorry if it's not. You can reiterate, put it in different words if I missed it. And then the second part of your question, why the 4-year lock, not a burn slash swap 4 years forever? I'm confused. I suspect you might be mixing the NFTs with the LFNTY token mechanisms. So again, they're totally separate. So the 4-year lock is 100% just a LFNTY token thing. You will not lock your flares. Flares are going to be staked. And that's just a way for us to easily keep track of who we should be distributing the LFNTY tokens to. Because we're not going to be giving LFNTY tokens to those who, for example, have their flare listed on the market. And we're also not going to give it to the flares that we've bought back. So if we just limit it to people who have it staked in our program, it really simplifies how it works. It's easy to keep track of who should be given these LFNTY distributions. And that's why we're going with that model. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. And oh wait, you added something on. Let's see, you said, since only the 4-year gets tokenized, why make it able to swap back, not flares? Okay, so you're talking about the VE Lifinity tokens. Why 4-year lock, not a burn? So I'm not sure why a burn would make sense. Like if you locked your tokens and then they get burned, then you just have nothing. Or you mean the LFNTY tokens? Oh, so you're saying why not, when you lock your LFNTY tokens, instead just burn them and then just get VE Lifinity instead, I think is what you're saying. I haven't thought about that. Let's see. Let me try to think about it right now. So that would definitely be a positive for LFNTY. It would be like a supply shock. I guess the downside is like you're basically burning your capital. You will never get that LFNTY back because you can't unlock it and then get access to it later to sell. So it's like, so like two effects here. One is that, yes, very positive for the price of Lifinity because like you're probably going to burn a bunch. On the other hand, this makes it much less likely for people to want to lock because as I explained earlier, like you're burning your capital and you're never going to get access to it again. You're exchanging the value of Lifinity for VE Lifinity, which gives you access to protocol revenue. So like people will have to think very carefully about that because in our current model, you keep your Lifinity, it's just locked. So it'll take time for it to unlock and for you to be able to realize get access to those tokens to sell for a profit or whatever. even while you still get access to the protocol revenue. But with this burn model, like you would permanently lose access to those Lifinity tokens. So people, like, you see the trade-off there. It's like much less appealing to make that trade. And so I don't know, I feel like in the end it's too much of a cost. It would make people lock much less is kind of my gut take on this. So yeah, I think that's why. Hope that makes sense. Let me take a sip. All right. Interesting idea though. All right, Binox asks, the Lifinity DEX will have its own Lifinity USDC pool. Can you describe how this is funded and maintained? This pool is basically the on-off ramp for acquiring Lifinity and selling Lifinity, correct? Correct? Yeah, that is correct. So how are we going to fund this? Basically, we're going to use funds from our IDO. So it'll be a model similar to what Solend did. They basically just took a portion of the USDC they raised in their IDO, and they matched it with Solend tokens from their treasury, and then just put that in a liquidity pool. And I really like this model because, especially because you don't need to do liquidity mining, which I think is just it's basically like not good for anyone. And you have tons of liquidity from the start, and it's not dependent on liquidity providers. Like the protocol owns it, and yeah, you have it right from the start. It's stable. Yeah, so that's basically the plan. And yeah, so we're gonna bootstrap it with a specific amount, and then we'll see like whether like that's enough. And if it's not enough, then like there's plenty of options for adding liquidity to that. Like especially with our protocol, because like we have this whole mechanism for acquiring liquidity, right? So we could use that for our Lifinity USDC pool if we wanted to. But yeah, there you have it. All right, G Infill asks, do you think the growth of the community is relatively beneficial to the holders, or should we expand a bit? Not sure I understand your question. I think growth of the community is definitely beneficial. Or do you mean, wait, yeah. I'm wondering if you're talking about like the Flare community and the like, I don't know, like the IDO participants differently or something. I mean, like in general, I don't see why expanding wouldn't be beneficial. Seems like that's beneficial to like every protocol, always. Maybe you can expand on your question a bit. Feel like I might be missing the point. All right. JY3D asks, since Lifinity released over, or yeah, since the Lifinity tokens are released over a year, and the buybacks of flares continues, that means each emission of Lifinity tokens to flare holders will be larger than the previous. Is that correct? So I think right now the model we're probably going to do is a continuous model. So for example, I mean, so this is basically the same as like all the staking or liquidity mining programs that you see. You like stake your tokens, and then like you can see the number of rewards you have go up like every second or whatever. Um, so yeah, so first of all, yeah, I just want to point that out so that it's clear that it's like basically continuous. So it might not be too meaningful to talk about like the next one is larger than the previous, first of all. And then, all right, so they posted a clarification, so I'm just going to read it. I mean, since fewer flares each week after the buyback, so more of the 1% per outstanding flare. Yeah, so this depends entirely on one, how many flares have we bought back? And that always goes up, right? Like we're not reintroducing supply into the market. So yeah, we're always buying more back. But the other factor is how many are listed on the marketplace. And that we're not in control of and can go up and down. So it's not deterministic. You can't say it'll always be going down. Like if a ton of people list, or if a ton of people delist their flares and hold them in their wallet, that's going to decrease the amount of Lifinity that's distributed to the rest of the people. Yeah, so can't really know that in advance. Yeah. All right, pancakeface.soul asks, will it be technically possible for flare holders to stake their flares for an X period of time to directly receive slash stake VE Lifinity? Hold on, let me try to understand this. Will it be technically possible for flare holders to stake their flares for an X period of time to directly receive slash stake VE Lifinity? For example, lock your flare for 4 years in some graphical user interface. Backend then claims daily Lifinity tokens, daily emissions, and vests for you to return your daily VE Lifinity. Okay. So, okay, so I think if I'm not mistaken, what you're asking is like you want to be able to stake your flare and then have the Lifinity emissions automatically converted to VE Lifinity for you. Is that correct? Okay. They say yes. So that would be convenient. Like maybe, but yeah, I guess I doubt it. Probably not a priority. I don't know, because like we're gonna have to be developing a lot of stuff, and we're gonna have to prioritize some things over others. So I could definitely see the usefulness of this, and like, um, it'd be nice to fully automate this, so like people don't have to claim and then lock their Lifinity every time, every so often. But yeah, I can't give a yes or no as to whether we will do this or not. Um, yeah, there's like a lot of things we'd like to automate. So like just to give another example, an idea I had was so back to part one of our tokenomics, you can exchange your LP tokens for VE Lifinity. And if anyone's using like Invictus or Socin for for like the similar bonding mechanism, you might be familiar with like how like you're often checking the discount on the bonds and like waiting for it to get high enough for you to want to buy in. What would be great would be if you could create LP tokens and then stake them and then set it so that whenever the discount on VE Lifinity reaches a certain threshold, then it automatically converts your LP tokens to VE Lifinity for you. That way you don't have to like constantly be monitoring the discount. Like that would be really cool, I think. Um, but yeah, so like that's another thing. So like there's definitely a lot of things we could automate and would like to, but yeah, it's just a matter of priorities. And right now it's like hard to say what our priorities are. I think we'll like it'll become a little bit more clear when we release our roadmap in part 6. And then yeah, I think as we build things out, like people will come up with ideas for improvements and make requests, and so like it'll be constantly adjusting. But yeah, anyways, yeah, I think like overall it's a good idea and we will take it into consideration. So yeah, thanks for that. All right. uh Rhea NSC asks, to clarify, to earn Lifinity tokens after the IDO, we will have to stake our NFT for how long? Yeah, so you'll have to stake them, and the staking can be you can unstake it whenever you want. So like basically we're going to do a continuous model where for whatever time period that you have it staked, you will continually receive Lifinity token emissions. But yeah, you can unstake and like sell if you want to, whenever you want. All right. Oh, JY, back to JY3D's question. Yeah, I forgot to, or maybe I totally missed the point. Said I was talking about X Lifinity. So let's see, returning to that question. Where was it? Okay. Why the 4-year lock? Not a burn swap. 4 years forever. Well, I don't know, actually. JY3D, can you like write down the whole question? Otherwise, I feel like I'm yeah, thanks. Appreciate it. All right. Pancake Face says, yeah, not urgent, more convenient to prevent weekly farming locking. Yeah. So yeah, we'll try to do that if at all possible. Abraham123 asks, is there a date for the IDO? Yeah, we're aiming for the end of March or in April. So no specific date yet. We have some things we need to do. Namely, first, we are making sure that when we add new pools, they automatically get added to Jupyter. So right now it would have to be done manually, but there's a way to make it like happen automatically. So that's what's currently being worked on. I think it might be in Jupyter's hands right now. And then after that, we're going to open pools to the public to, yeah, make sure we can do deposits and withdrawals. And then finally for the IDO, which will be a VE IDO, details in part 6, we're going to need to develop our VE Lifinity program before the IDO because we're going to use it in the IDO. So yeah, we're also working on that. So yeah, we have a bunch of stuff to do, and like it's like predicting development times is generally a bad idea. Sometimes it goes fast, sometimes it takes more time. So like yeah, we just don't have a date yet. All right, JY3D says, I think you covered it. Not real clear on why X Lifinity is for, what it's for. It loses the governance of VE and possibly thin markets to sell in. Yeah, so why do we have X Lifinity? Maybe I should refer to the article because we listed a bunch of reasons. And I probably won't have them all come to mind immediately, so I'm just going to open the article. Okay, so some of the reasons we listed. One is it enables users to transfer their VE Lifinity to another wallet. So to recap, VE Lifinity is non-transferable. So without X Lifinity, you wouldn't be able to transfer your VE Lifinity. Although even with X Lifinity, you can only transfer your 4-year locked VE Lifinity and not the other ones. But yeah, this will enable you to switch wallets. Another reason is that you can exit your VE Lifinity position. So basically you can sell your X Lifinity for USDC if you want to. And like you point out, these markets could be quite illiquid because we're not planning to provide liquidity. So it's basically up to the community, like whoever wants to. So basically the way this would work is like those who want to acquire more VE Lifinity, they can place USDC bids on Serum. And then whenever like somebody wants to exit their VE Lifinity position, they can market sell for the USDC. At least that's how I see it playing out. I doubt there's going to be much X Lifinity on the books because like if you have X Lifinity, you'd rather have it be VE Lifinity so that you're receiving the protocol revenue. And if you just have it sitting on the books, you're missing that. So yeah, I feel like people will be much more willing to leave USDC on the books. And therefore I expect more of the X Lifinity to be like market orders to exit. And yeah, so like you point out, this could be very illiquid. It's uh, totally dependent on like who's willing to provide liquidity for it. And like from our perspective, that's totally fine because like we don't really care about catering to those who want to exit. Like we're providing the option, but like it's not important to us that you are able to exit our token, our locked token, with great liquidity. Like it makes sense that we provide liquidity for Lifinity USDC because like if you go through the unlocking process, like that's like the quote proper way to do it, right? It's like you waited your time. And so it makes sense to have liquidity for that. And also like for people who want to buy, it makes sense to have liquidity. But yeah, if you're looking to exit, like we're not like 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 we're not dying to make sure that you can exit at a great price. So it makes sense that you're gonna exit at a premium. Um, and yeah, it's totally dependent on whoever's willing to provide liquidity. I hope that makes sense. So you continue. So mainly, it's a vehicle to transport it around since it's a 4-year commitment. Makes it a little safer for long lockers. Yeah. So another effect of this. Actually, I'll just go through the other two benefits. One is that it opens the possibility of additional utility for VE Lifinity in the future. This is because once you make it into an SPL token, which X Lifinity is, then it's interoperable with all the other protocols. So you could, yeah, integrate with other protocols in various ways that VE Lifinity can't. And then finally, if we don't do this, other protocols will, and they'll extract a fee from our users in the process. And if you're familiar with the Curve Wars, this is exactly what happened with Curve and Convex. Curve has VECRV, but it does not have a method of tokenizing their 4-year locked VECRV. And that's where Convex came in and was like, hey, we'll lock your Curve, your CRV, for 4 years and permanently keep it locked. And in exchange, we'll give you Convex Curve or CVX CRV. And it'll be like a representation of your locked VECRV. But they take, I think it's 16% of the rewards in the process, which is quite large. So like we're just providing the service for free to avoid that loophole kind of. Like it would have been better if Curve had that functionality natively rather than having to rely on an external protocol to provide that. So yeah, if we don't do this, I think other protocols will do it. So yeah, we're just doing it from the start. All right, JY3D continues. Since you will be building out a stake system for flares, will that allow you to use other NFT projects as possible bonding/staking assets in the future? I'm not sure what you're getting at, but just to clarify, like our staking system, it's just a way for us to distribute LFNTY tokens to flare holders. So initially, our plan was to do airdrops, weekly airdrops. But then we realized, like, looking at all these other projects that did airdrops, like, it was very cumbersome. There's always errors, users complaining they didn't get the airdrop, Solana congestion causing many transactions to fail, just like very bad user experience, both for the devs and for the users. It's like a lose-lose all around, it appeared. And so we switched to this staking model instead. And so again, it's purely just a way to be able to effectively distribute Lifinity tokens to those who deserve them, which is the people who basically aren't listing their flares on the market, just hold them in their wallet. Except, yeah, now they have to stake them. So, yeah. I mean, so yeah, we're a DEX, so like we're not really looking to do like a bunch of NFT stuff, if that's what you had in mind. Our NFTs, like the purpose was to bootstrap our liquidity pools and also start building a community. And they've effectively accomplished those goals. Um, and yeah, the flares will just continue doing its thing, just like earning revenue and doing buybacks. But yeah, we're not like looking to become, I don't know, like in that sense, we're not like other NFT projects, I guess, where like other NFT projects, they have to keep doing something to like always bring in new users for their NFT. And but yeah, like we have this inherent, or like basically the flares are backed by more than 20K of SOL earning revenue for the flare holders. So yeah, that's what like always is creating the new demand. Like the protocol itself is creating the new demand rather than having to bring in new users continually. Although obviously that's also great too to have new people coming in. All right, well, it appears I've reached the end of the questions on Discord. So I can open it up to people who want to come on stage to ask questions if they want, in particular Twitter, since they aren't able to type questions. So if someone wants to raise their hand, I can bring you on stage. So just let me know. But yeah, I've done this in the past, and no one has really wanted to come on stage, which is fine. So if that's the case, I might just end it. But I'll give it some time. Let's see. Yeah, so usually I do these AMAs later, about like 8 hours later or so. Um, Seems to be more people around at that time. So yeah, I guess there's just like fewer people. All right. Oh, suddenly a lot of questions popping in. Okay, G Infill says they edited their question. All right, so the question is, do you think the slow growth of the community is relatively beneficial to the holders, or should we expand a bit? Um, so I think like whether slow growth or fast growth is better is actually I think whether it's slow or fast is like this how do you say like the side effect. It's a symptom rather than the cause, the underlying cause. So I think the reason we have slow growth um, is that like one of the main things is like our project is not the simplest to understand. There's a lot of moving parts, and you really need to do some reading and research to understand what we're doing. On the other hand, once people do their research, they become strong believers in general. That's what I've seen. Because we have solid mechanisms. The way our flares and also our tokenomics works are they're just solid. So I think that's a major reason why we have slow growth. And so like looking at it from that perspective, I think it's probably good in the long term. It might hurt a little in the short term because yeah, just because it's slow and it's harder to get people's attention because they need to dedicate some time to understanding it, and like time is scarce, right? It's the most valuable commodity. So yeah. Sorry, I didn't finish reading your question or whatever. So you said less holders means more shares, but more members makes the community stronger and uplifts the price of flares. Yeah, so I mean that's another thing. I guess so with regards to flares, less holders means like for us, I guess an interesting thing about the flares is that it's kind of good regardless of whether the price is high or low. If the price is low, that means we're able to buy back more. And that's good because if we buy back more, that means the people who are holding will get more Lifinity tokens when we start the distribution. On the other hand, if the price is high, that means if you want to exit, you can do that now at a much better price. So I guess it depends on like what your priorities are. Like if you're a flipper, then higher price is obviously better because then now you can sell for a profit. Whereas if you're looking to get the Lifinity token distribution, then you'd prefer a low price because that means we'll buy back more and you'll get more Lifinity tokens. So yeah, I'd say it's a trade-off based on your preferences. All right, JY3D, thanks for the AMA. The early morning ones were tough to make. Yeah, I'm not a early morning guy myself, at least not these days anyways. So I feel you. Weekend Whale asks, will token distribution to NFT holders be on the SSC model or shadowy supercoders model? That is a certain allocation guaranteed to each NFT, or will the distribution take place over a certain period of time? And if you're not staked, you missed it. Yeah, so it won't be the SSC model. So like maybe I don't understand this fully, but like some one thing that's like confusing to me about the SSC model is that like each NFT has its own like fixed amount of shadow tokens that it contains. But like when you look at the SSC NFTs on the market, is there any way to tell how much of the shadow tokens they have left? Because then it like makes it really difficult to value them if they have a site where you can check. Yeah, I mean, I'm sure they do. It's just that, like it's pretty inconvenient, if you have to like type in each NFT that you see on like Magic Eden to like check how much shadow it has and then like calculate its like adjusted value based on how much shadow it still has left. Like it just seems pretty cumbersome. But anyways, yeah, we're not going to be doing that. We're just going to do it over the course of 1 year. Yeah, that's what we said from the start in our original article. So yeah, it'll be distributed over a period of 1 year. Like it'll have and we'll distribute a fixed amount each period. And then however much each flare gets is dependent on how many flares are staked during that period. So if there's like 9,000 staked during a period, they'll get X amount. And if there's only 4,500 staked during a period, they'll get double the amount of when there were 9,000 staked, type of thing. Yeah. All right. Okay. All right, moving on. We have JY3D asks, will the concentrated LP have a user front end kind of like Uni v3 for adjusting width of bands? And how will you seek out other pools to bring in? All right, so I think you're going to enjoy this. I wrote a Twitter thread explaining how we're quite different from Uniswap v3. So like we do concentration, and that's probably why you're conjuring up Uniswap v3. But yeah, we're very different in how we work um, under the hood. And so, like, I guess the simplest way to say it is like with Uni v3, you specify the range that you want to provide liquidity in, whereas on Lifinity, you don't. You just deposit your assets, and then Lifinity adjusts where you're providing liquidity for you. And the reason it's able to do this is because we use an oracle. So the oracle tells us what the actual price of the asset is right now. And we offer our prices based on that price. Whereas with Uni v3, it doesn't know what the actual price is. Like you provide the liquidity and then it's just static until someone trades against it. And then the liquidity changes. Um, and our model has all kinds of benefits. And one is just that it's much more convenient from a UX perspective, that you don't have to keep adjusting your liquidity ranges to optimize your yield. And the other one is that basically we're able to avoid impermanent loss. So this isn't a guarantee. It's possible we have impermanent loss, but tests have shown that on average we do much better than impermanent loss. And like when I say better, like this is so I should okay, to clarify. So in Uniswap v2 and v3, all of their market making activities, like all of the trading they facilitate, there's only one possibility, and that is to um, experience impermanent loss. So you can only lose from market making. And so the hope is that you overcome that impermanent loss with the trading fees and from liquidity mining rewards if you have those. With us, we're actually able to make a profit from market making. So basically, Uniswap v2 and v3, what they effectively do is they buy high and then sell low. And that's where this impermanent loss is coming from. Whereas with Lifinity, we're buying low and selling high. And we're able to do this because we use an oracle. And so, yeah, we make a profit not just from trading fees, but also from market making, which is incredible. And you can see like the practical effects of this in numbers just looking at our APYs. So, for example, on our Sol USDC pool, currently we have about, I think it was 60% APY, or was it APR? I forget. But yeah, about 60% from trading fees. Now, already that's like really high. If you're familiar with like constant product pools, like it's not that high. And so first of all, the trading fees, the reason it's so high is because we're able to do concentration. So like your rewards from trading fees aren't diluted by like tons and tons of liquidity, which is what you need in like Uniswap v2 models. But then on top of that, if you look at our APY or APR, again I forgot, you can look on the website on our app in the pools tab. You can see these numbers. So, and right now it's not totally accurate because it's a 30-day average, and we integrated with Jupyter less than 30 days ago. So it'll take a little bit longer to reflect the true numbers. But yeah, so our APR APY for trading fees plus market making is about 120%, I believe, which is like insane. This is for Sol USDC. No liquidity mining rewards, 120%. This is like unheard of. And it's because our DEX is buying low and selling high. So yeah, I hope that answers the question. Or yeah, and if you want to take a deeper look into this, like if you want a better understanding of like how exactly this works, again, I'll just refer you to that thread. So if you go to the resources channel in our Discord and then click on the Lifinity Dex deep dive thread, it'll take you to the one where we explain how we're different from Uniswap v3 and how having an oracle makes a huge difference. So yeah, I'd encourage you to check that out. I think you'll find it very interesting. All right, I've once again reached the end of the questions. Let's see if anyone has raised their hand on Twitter, although I doubt it. Yeah. But yeah, if you want to, just let me know. I'll bring you on stage. Um, yeah, I guess I'll give it a few minutes, and then if no more questions, I will bring this to a close. Yeah, I will continue answering questions as long as you guys have questions. So Shadow says, "Thank you. These AMAs are so informative." You're welcome. That is their entire purpose. Um, yeah, we really care about um, like making sure our community is educated about the details. We want everyone to understand what we're doing, why we're doing it, why it works, why it's effective. Um, it's just that it takes time. So yeah, we release a bunch of resources um, where you can learn yourself and also doing these AMAs. Yeah. JY3D found a post, got some reading to do. You are welcome. Just looking at our who's in our Discord audience. We got Copycat. Shout out to Copycat, who's been doing Chinese translations of our Medium articles. Really appreciate that. Copycat translates all kinds of Solana articles. It's, the level of output is pretty impressive. All right, Shadow is typing, so maybe I'll answer whatever that is if it's a question, and then call it a day. All right. Shadow asks, any concerns on the recent SEC news on NFTs? I saw a headline. I don't know any details. So what? They're investigating some NFT projects? Yeah, okay. So, I mean, I don't think so. Like if they're looking into projects, like we're not the project they're gonna look into, right? Like one, because we're not doing anything scammy, but two, because like we're not huge. Um, so I don't think I'm worried. We're also not like Like, so our model, it doesn't do distributions to NFT holders, which is like fairly common right now. Because we all often get questions like, what's the APY for holding a flare? Or like, when staking, stuff like that. Um, but yeah, we intentionally avoided that model because we were worried about regulations. So yeah, the buybacks I think is much safer than directly distributing SOL to people. All right, so they're investigating whether tokens can be considered commodities or securities. Right. Yeah, I mean, like, I'm no legal expert. I If I say anything on this matter, I'm probably just like talking out of my ass, to be honest. But I think like relatively speaking, compared to like all the other projects out there, I think we're in a good spot. So like I don't really see a reason to be worried. It's my big picture take on it. All right, Snix asks, from an outsider, what's different from your project compared to others that makes it special? Reading up today, I'm curious. All right, so I guess I'll give you the download. So I'd say there's a few things. One is that we as a team took zero profit from the sale of our NFTs. So all the funds that we raised, it went into our liquidity pools and it's earning trading fees for the flare holders, which goes to buybacks and also to growing that liquidity that earns the trading fees. So yeah, I think unlike other NFT projects, so like the common model is like the team takes most, if not all, of the proceeds from the NFT sales, and then promise to create value for the NFTs in like some other way. And they probably often take a chunk of the royalties as well. So we as a team, we're not taking any of the royalties, any of the sale proceeds. It's just all for the flare holders. So I think that's huge. Um, yeah, I should I explain the mechanism? I guess I kind of did. So basically, like 50% of trading fees plus the royalties, which is our revenue, 50% goes to buybacks, and 50% is reinvested into the pools. And then the flare holders get to choose what they want to do with the bought back flares. Yeah. So that's the gist of it. So like, yeah, that's one thing that makes it very different. Another thing I think is our art is quite unique. So we have animated NFTs, which is unique in itself. But then the art style I think is very unique. Like the profile picture projects, they generally have like bright colors and like man, I don't have the language to describe it, but like there's a certain aesthetic and like they all look in a way kind of similar. Um, uh, I don't know if that comes across as clear at all, or if you know what I mean by that. And it might just be me. But like so ours, it's like it's very dark. It's like dark background, and then this like light or shiny character. Um, so in that sense, like they have a very different aesthetic, which I think a lot of people enjoy. Um, yeah. Let's see what else. So our flares are directly integrated with DeFi functionality. So I mean, I explained this earlier, but the funds were put in our liquidity pool. So that's pretty unique. Um, and we already had a project, or we already had the DEX live and functional before we launched the NFTs. So, um, yeah, I guess. Well, yeah, if you were going to buy the NFT sale, then that could have given you comfort. Um, so yeah, and one thing I guess I'll just mention that I really like about our model is that it's not dependent on having new people come in. I kind of mentioned this earlier, but so other NFT projects, you need to always have a new group of people buying to keep the price up. Whereas with us, like we have a legit source of revenue from trading fees, which is totally uncorrelated from demand for our flares. Like if people just want to dump flares, it doesn't matter. We'll still keep generating revenue from trading fees and buying back the flares. So yeah, I that can provide confidence that like basically the protocol will always be there to buy your flares. The price will vary a lot depending on like the level of speculation and stuff, but yeah, there will always be a buyer. I remember you when you minted faded you till now. Yeah, we hear that a bunch, I guess. Um, yeah, like I guess like I mean, so we were surprised how quickly we sold out. It's like 2 hours, and like we weren't big at all. I mean, then like we're still not that like well known. I think. I mean, much more than we used to be, but um, and like people were saying, oh, this might be the next SSC, which is not a narrative we created. Someone just said that, and then it like kind of caught on for a while. So probably some people saw that and like aped in. Others like saw that and were like, "Oh, this is probably just like fake hype." And also there's like the oh, never mind. I won't mention it. If you know, you know. All right. Anyways, yeah, I've talked about that enough. All right, moving on. We have JY3D says, "Will you add any stable LP pairs, or does this DEX model not benefit from them?" Yeah, so I think we mentioned this in a previous AMA, but we did some testing on stable LP pairs, see how our pools function, and we realized we need to make some adjustments. So the difficulty with our model was that because the price between the assets barely changes, um, it doesn't incentivize, or like the rebalancing mechanism doesn't work as well as we'd like it to. So for those who don't know, we have a rebalancing mechanism where we're always trying to keep our pools at 50-50 balance. And so for example, if we have too much SOL and not enough USDC in our pool, then what we will do is we'll slightly um, decrease the price of SOL so that it's easier to buy from our pool, and do the opposite for USDC. So then this encourages traders to buy SOL from our pool, and therefore makes it more likely for the 50-50 balance to be restored. So this mechanism, it doesn't work as well with stable pairs, we realized, because the prices barely change. Um, so yeah, we're looking how to make adjustments so that our pools do work better for stable pairs. Um, but yeah, so if I had to guess, I think our DEX model, it definitely benefits more for volatile pairs. And that's because an oracle is much more useful there. So for like stable pairs, so you have like stable swaps, Mercurial and Saber, for example, and they have token pairs like USDC, USDT. And the reason they're able to concentrate liquidity so much is because it's based on the assumption that one USDC equals one USDT. And so basically it's as if they have an oracle. And the oracle, it just never changes. It just says one USDC equals one USDT. And so they can concentrate around that price. Whereas they can't do that with SOL USDC because the price of SOL in USDC is constantly changing. So I do think we do have, like, our advantage is probably much greater with the volatile pools. But yeah, we'll have to see. We're still doing testing and making adjustments. So yeah, final results on how we'll do with stable pairs are forthcoming. So yeah. just stay tuned, I guess. And they continue, getting Lifinity rewards for no risk would seem tough. Not sure what you're referring to. Getting Lifinity rewards for no risk. Yeah, I'm not following. Maybe you can clarify. If you mean like for providing liquidity, like just in case you're not aware, we're not going to do liquidity mining. So we're not going to provide Lifinity tokens for providing liquidity. If that's what you mean by like the no risk part, like providing liquidity for stable swaps is generally considered to be low risk because they don't have impermanent loss. So I thought that might be what you're referring to. Yeah, and I guess like so that's another reason, right? It's like you don't have impermanent loss with stable pools. And like one of the big selling points for us is that we avoid that impermanent loss and in fact can even reverse it to make a profit from market making. But yeah, with stable pairs, there's no impermanent loss to be had really. So I'm not 100% on this, but like it feels like it's kind of a race to the bottom in terms of maxing out your concentration and lowering the trading fees. So like the more concentration, the more you concentrate around the stable price, it's like you're leveraging a bet that the assets will not go off peg. Is kind of the way I interpret it. Because if it does go off peg, then the more concentrated you are, the more screwed your pool is going to be when people are like trying to mass exit because this one asset became depegged. But on the other hand, while it is pegged, like you're reaping more of the rewards because you have higher concentration around it. So yeah, that's kind of what it seems like to me. All right, Binox asks, I'm often asked what well-known protocol would you compare Lifinity to from another chain? Um, yeah, so I know that Dodo on Ethereum does use an oracle, but it doesn't use it the way we do. I think the way we use it is basically like the most aggressive way. Okay, so to be honest, like I'm not 100% sure how Dodo functions. I just know that it doesn't work the way our pools does. I think it uses an oracle to like make adjustments to the price it offers, but like it's not the sole basis for offering the price, which is basically how we do it. Like we also do rely on the balance of assets in our pool, but that's only for rebalancing. It's not to like determine okay what price, like what base price should we be adjusting from. Whereas I've seen other protocols, like for example, I think HydroSwap works this way, where this one's on Solana and it's like a cross-chain protocol. Like they have this mechanism, I think. So their base price is based on the ratio of assets in their pool. So like same as a constant product AMM. But then they use the Oracle price to adjust their trading fees. So I think the way it works is the further off from the Oracle price, the price uh, inferred from the balance of assets in their pool is, the higher a trading fee they will charge. So they have a variable trading fee. I hope that made sense. So yeah, those are some options that you can look into if you want to see other protocols that also use an oracle in one way or another. But yeah, I think Lifinity is the most aggressive. And yeah, Black Phoenix. Actually, let me take a sip. My mouth is getting super dry. All right, Black Phoenix asks, is it too late to buy Lifinity flares? Did I miss the train? Well, you're not gonna get an answer from me on that. I refrain from speculating on the price. So, but what I will tell you is that if you feel hesitant about buying Lifinity flares, that's fine. Another way to get exposure to Lifinity, if you like our decks and how it works, is to participate in our IDO, which will be like a month later or something around that time frame. So yeah, that's just another way you can get exposure. Um, yeah, it doesn't have to be through Lifinity flares per se. Yeah, it's a really difficult decision, I think, to try to gauge like which is better. Like, should I buy flares or should I participate in the IDO? Like, it's a common topic of conversation I see in the holders channels. People talking about like how much they want to allocate to each and stuff. So yeah. Um, like the price of Lifinity flares, it's dependent on how well our DEX does, because that's what's generating the trading fees. But it's also dependent on speculation, how many people are taking profit, um, and like that's I mean you can't predict either of those things. Well, like the trading piece part is pretty stable, I would say, unless like a protocol comes that takes a lot of the market share. Like currently, we have 50% or so of the SOL USDC and MSOL USDC markets combined, which is a lot, given that like we only have 1.5 million worth of liquidity in total. So yeah, I think you can expect that to be relatively stable, but the speculation part, I mean, you just never know, right? So yeah, I can't really advise you on that. All right. Have we reached the end of our questions? Any last minute questions? Anybody on Twitter? Oh, we have a request. Let's see. All right, I have invited Fired to the stage. Welcome.
Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Sorry, man. I was like, I couldn't listen to you. I couldn't get a time, so I just catch you at the moment. If I'm going to ask some question, maybe you already answered before. So are you happy with that?
Yeah, dude. Go ahead.
Nah, thanks, bro. Um, so I bought one of the Lifinity NFTs. So I'm still holding it. So I just realized you said mentioned the staking process. I didn't do any staking. I just hold in my wallet, so I didn't know anything. I just saw you guys on Jupiter when I was doing the sloping. I just see why this guy like I didn't see before like because I've been using the stall ecosystem for a long time since maybe it came out, and then I just Lifinity like what's this? Then I just I just opened the Twitter. I just check it your website. That's awesome, and then yeah, I checked your the roadmap, like it's impressed, and then I said like, this guy like doing something the underdog, like no one knows. That's really really undervalued. I reckon this project, but then I just don't know your staking process, bro. Can you please um, let me know because I'm also like part of the Turkish community. As you know, the Turkish community is very big in this blockchain industry. And then probably I would like to do the AMA with you if if I'm impressed with you guys, your program, all your staking things. So in my next step with you. So I just wanted to know. I just wanted to hear like what was your project, bro? Just can you please go like summarize with me? if you don't mind.
Summarize what exactly?
Summarize like how it's like
The
how it's
staking?
working. Like, so I need to do the staking, or if I'm holding the like NFTs enough, or
Oh,
what's the
okay, okay.
exact plan?
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, you're totally fine just holding them right now. So, yeah, originally we were planning to do an airdrop to all our flare holders. So, like, we would take a snapshot of whoever had flares in their wallet and then do the airdrop to them. But we realized that that's probably not the best solution, given that, like, other projects who do airdrops, like, always have issues with, like, transactions not going through and Solana congestion and tons of users saying like I didn't get the airdrop and like having to deal with all this. So instead, what we decided to do was switch to a staking model, and that hasn't started yet, which is why you're totally fine. It'll be starting after our IDO, which will be about a month from now, about. And yeah, so after the IDO, we'll create a website where you can stake your NFTs, and then you can just leave it there, and you'll start receiving Lifinity tokens. And then whenever you want, you can claim your Lifinity tokens, and you can also unstake your flare whenever you want. So yeah, pretty simple.
So what Lifinity token, is there any utility with that, or just what we're gonna do with that?
Yeah, so actually we just started releasing the tokenomics for Lifinity token. It's going to be a 6-part series. Right now we've released parts 1 and 2. You can find the links on our Twitter, also in our Discord, or just go to our Medium. Yeah, and yeah, definitely lots of utility for Lifinity.
That's cool, bro. Like, as you said, this is staking process. That's the I think safest way for the airdrop. That's cool. And I just couldn't get you, bro. Like, how you guys like becoming the best swap platform on the like Jupiter? Like, can you please let me know? Like, I just don't know if it's not secret.
Yeah, so if you're not familiar with how our DEX works, um, we do two things. That I guess yeah. So the two things to mention is that one, we concentrate liquidity, and the other is that we use an oracle. Right now we use Pith, and that tells us the price that we should trade at. And these two things combined enable us to provide the best price often. And also, our trading fees are 0.04%, which is the lowest in the industry. So, all these things combined uh, make it so that we're often appearing on Jupiter.
That's awesome, bro. Like, if like the whatever you guys are seeing, like the thing is like it's just only for the soul like when we are using. So you guys like wanna do the like for the other coins as well to be the best swap platform. I mean swap selection.
Yeah, we're definitely going to add a bunch of pools. We're actually working on a new one right now. And yeah, after that, we're going to open the pools to the public so that anyone can provide liquidity. So those two things will be coming in the next few weeks. So stay tuned.
That's that's awesome, bro. So I and then one more question for the like community. So you guys like wanna do the anything for the DAO or like in the future, or you guys going to decide everything?
Yeah, so we'll have two DAOs. Right now we have the Flare DAO, which is composed of flare holders, and they govern the bought back flares. Unfortunately, we can't really do votes yet because we're trying to use squads, but squads doesn't have batch voting functionality right now. So, for example, we have one member with over 1,000 flares. So, if they wanted to vote on squads right now, they'd have to make more than 1,000 transactions, one for each of their flares, which would really suck. So, we're waiting.
1,000, 1,000. Oh, that's awesome. That's very hard, bro.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
so we're waiting for that functionality to be added to do anything there. And then the other one is once we launch our Lifinity token, um, you'll be able to lock it for VE Lifinity. You can check more about these details in the tokenomics. And then, yeah, the VE Lifinity holders will be able to vote on some things. So, yeah, that's the TLDR.
That's great, bro. And so I'm the part of the one DAO. So we are we are the most of the people are from Turkey. So we want to do the I don't know how the next community can be like partnership with you or anything is that because as you know I can see at the moment I can see they consume everything like in the blockchain DeFi is consumed, NFTs consumed, like everything is finishing up, bro. Right now I can see exactly, I can see what's gonna happen. The community is going to drive everything. That's my opinion for the blockchain at the moment. So if the communities cannot integrate it to your project for the next year, I reckon, in the upcoming years. So this kind of project not gonna be around here anymore. So that's my idea. So the that's my perspective for the blockchain at the moment. So is there any plan for that for you guys?
You mean plans to like focus on community, you mean?
The community with other communities, like let's take it like any other communities. NFT communities are very strong, as you know, the Solana Monkey Business, the gods,
Yeah.
the other things, they are very, very strong, and they are becoming very strong day by day. So if you don't realize that, any project, any coins, any NFTs, they should be like open to anyone when they wanted to do like any partnership or in the like let's say metaverse,
Yeah, yeah.
to integrate the metaverse thing. So I'm just saying like for the new technologies in the blockchain, you guys want to do anything? Is there any plan with that?
Yeah, so like I 100% agree, like community is huge. You like there's no way you can ignore that. And also we're totally open to any kind of partnership. So yeah, if there's something that some team would like to do, please reach out to us. Um, that said, I mean, like, I guess I didn't totally understand the question. Like, we don't have plans to like, I don't know, do some like metaverse something. We don't have plans for that. I think one thing that is unique about Lifinity as an NFT is, I kind of mentioned this earlier in the AMA, but normally with an NFT, to keep momentum, you need new people to join your community because otherwise there's no one buying your NFTs. Um, but there's always at least some people selling. With ours, it's a little bit different because we always have a buyer, which is our protocol. Um, our like all the funds we raised from the NFT sale went into the liquidity pools and it's earning trading fees, and also 100% of the royalties are being used for buybacks or to increase the size of the liquidity pool that's earning trading fees. So it's not as dependent on having a constant stream of new people joining to buy your NFTs. But nevertheless, like again, to emphasize, like yeah, community, it's like so important, right? So and yeah, I think we have a really great community. Um, Always very helpful to newcomers and always thinking of good ideas and like um, doing things themselves, like creating the bots on our Discord, and now they're like forming a group to uh, vet the whitelist opportunities that we get because we were getting kind of a lot, and I was kind of doing the vetting, but like probably not a great job because there's just like I didn't have the capacity to do like deep research on all them. So now the community's going to be taking that up, which is awesome. But anyways, I'm kind of going off topic. Yeah, those are some of my thoughts.
Yeah, I got you, bro. No problem. Yeah. So as you know, the like market is very competitive. So if you do something new, So right now, maybe there is now another competition with you in this industry because you're doing different than others. So, like in the next stage, maybe other project going to do the same thing. So, is there any action for you to avoid like this competition?
Yeah, I would say check out part one of our tokenomics. The TLDR is we're going to look to own the liquidity that we provide. So normally at DEX, you need liquidity providers to provide all the liquidity, but we're going to try to own that liquidity so that we don't we can like graduate from being reliant on external liquidity providers. And if we reach that state, that means that people can still fork our code, but they can't fork the liquidity. So they're going to have to bootstrap their liquidity somehow, which is not easy. So I think that will give us longevity.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good answer. So, but the you know whatever you think, you're just gonna do that. You have to do that as soon as possible. Like all the actions you have to take at the moment. That you shouldn't wait to like I'll do that after 1 week. Because the blockchain like just booming, bro. Like everyone is hearing something. Even this Twitter space, if someone is hearing whatever we are talking, maybe some developers beat us that. Like anything can be possible, and they're gonna do whatever you are saying at the moment. So that's why I'm just saying like whatever we need to do, like just we need to do as soon as possible, bro.
Yeah, we're on it. No worries, no worries. All right, I see some other people raising their hands. So thanks for your questions. Um,
Thanks, bro. Thanks, no worries. I really appreciate that. I'm just wanted to ask your permission, like for the next MAA for the Turkish community. You okay with that? I just wanted to organize something with you.
yeah, totally. Let's talk on yeah, just shoot us a DM and let's talk about it.
No worries, man. Thanks, bro. I appreciate it.
All right, talk to you later.
Bye.
All right, Wade Warren, I've approved you on the stage. Welcome.
Hi. I joined late, so this may be redundant, but I'm curious how you think um, what are your expectations for how other AMMs will respond, given that you have something like 50% of the USDC stall pool at this point? And what do you expect kind of this whole market to look like in a couple of years?
Yeah, good question. Also a very tough question. Um, I guess I expect so like the response of various other dexes, I think a huge factor will be how big they are already.
Yeah.
And the larger they are, I think it'll be hard for them to make large scale adjustments. So, for example, like Radium and Orca, which are quite large, I think it'll be difficult for them to like, for example, to like adopt our model. Um, it might be easier to adopt our DEX model, like the underlying trading mechanisms, but then they can't really copy the tokenomics because they're already quite like far into that. So I don't know how they could stop it part way, or at least it would be very difficult, I think. Like if they wanted to adopt our tokenomics, they'd have to stop all liquidity mining, and yeah, that would mean like a huge loss of liquidity immediately. So I don't know, but yeah, with regards to the DEX model, um, yeah, that's really hard to gauge. I could imagine like it's easier to imagine like new like as of yet non-existent protocols just like copying our code or the model and I don't know, making like a slight adjustment and then like trying to bootstrap themselves that way.
Mhm.
Because I mean that would be pretty easy to do. And but yeah, I think the adjustment they make to whatever our model is, I think it would need to have like a significant value add to like really take um, mind share and capital away from what we've built because like we've built a lot of credibility and a community. Um, so yeah, like small adjustments probably won't cut it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. So what will the deck?
Sorry, go ahead.
No, no, you go ahead.
Is the constant product model dead?
Yeah, I don't think it is. I think it's still going to be useful
Yeah.
for especially smaller tokens.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like basically, and actually we're going to use it too. We're going to use it for Lifinity USDC. And the reason is you can't concentrate, um, you can't do concentration for a pool unless it has a oracle.
Mm-hmm.
And so like you need to start somewhere, right? And the great thing about the constant product model is that it provides liquidity at all prices. Um, so I mean, yeah, but the bad part is that it's very inefficient and there's lots of slippage and all that. But so like it's a good starting point basically. But then like once you have your token listed on centralized exchange and like market makers are providing liquidity, like that's when you can start to graduate from the constant product model.
Gotcha. And I'm curious to better understand the kind of the data sources for pricing on Pith. Are those mostly centralized exchanges, or where's that data coming from? And
Yeah, so I think Pith provides a comprehensive list, but they basically have
yeah.
like very reputable, um, it's a combination of market makers, centralized exchanges, and traders, I believe. So yeah, like if you see these names, a lot of them you'll know them, well, because they're in crypto. But then other ones are just like TradFi, like
Yeah.
big TradFi names. Um, yeah, that's my understanding.
Gotcha. I really appreciate the answers. Useful stuff.
No problem. Thanks for the questions. All right, let's see. Thought we had another person requesting, but they disappeared. Um, okay, we have one question back on the Discord. So just give me a second. Oh wait, we do have Mike 0003. I've added you to the stage. Welcome. You're muted, in case you don't know. All right, not hearing from Mike at the moment, so just gonna go to the Discord question.
Oh, sorry,
Oh wait.
my baby started crying. Sorry.
No worries.
Sorry about that.
No worries.
Yeah. I'm just wondering. Like I came a bit late as well, just like Wade, but I mean, like I've only been 3 days deep into the research of Lifinity. I picked up like 11 off the market recently. Super excited about what you guys are doing, but I'm very new to the whole pool and DeFi market. Sorry about the baby crying. 1 second.
It's all right.
Just hand it off to the mother. Anyway, so one of the things that I've been looking at as a competitive space, I know you got 50% market share, and you're trying to figure out how to keep that edge. Just wondering with the Hawkside mint today, is there any overlap with what they're doing? Because I have no idea what they're doing. I read all of your stuff and I kind of understand it conceptually.
Did you say Hawkside?
Hawkside?
Yeah,
I think
yeah.
it was Hawkside
Uh-huh.
or First Hawkside. It was a mint today. They're doing all these yield farmings and AI
Right.
related things. And I'm just wondering if there's any overlap. That's my first question. And secondly, I see that you're bringing back trading profits and the buyback pools. Are you planning on increasing your current pool, which is already very large, at some stage? Those two questions.
Do you mean increasing the number of pools?
Well, like the total funds that you deploy.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Hawksite, as far as I know, there's no overlap. I mean, we're basically just a DEX, and they are a yield aggregator. I'm not sure if that's 100% accurate, but like there's some sort of aggregator. And yeah, like you said, they use AI machine learning to offer like various strategies and stuff. Um, so yeah, we're not gonna be doing anything like that. So I don't think there is overlap. Yeah. And then are we gonna add assets to our pools? Yeah, so we are gonna add so one thing is we're gonna open up pools to the public so that people can add assets if they want to. So that will definitely increase the amount of assets in the pool. Um, and then so I want to mention part 4 of our tokenomics, which isn't out yet, but it talks about how our pools will basically have an optimal level of liquidity. And ideally, we don't really want to go beyond that amount. And the reason is when you go beyond this, we call it the target liquidity, then the trading fees per LP token starts to decrease. So basically, your liquidity starts to be used less efficiently. And so we don't really have a reason to acquire liquidity beyond that point. It might, so it will increase our trading fees a little bit, but at the expense of the LPs that were already in the pool. Um, so in other words, basically it'll start to decrease the APR of our pools. And so we have a mechanism for how to regulate that based on the target liquidity. And yeah, we get into more details in part 4 on that. But yeah, yeah. So it's something we've definitely thought about. Hope that,
Awesome.
yeah.
I have one final follow-up
Sure.
to that point. I see that your trading pool profits have been you started to release that data in the announcement. I'm just wondering, do you guys have a projection for like how high that pool will get, the trading like per week data that do you have a projection for like how that's going to grow? Is it going to stay stable or is it kind of random?
The trading volume.
The trading profits. I think
Profits.
it's so there's like a pool. Yeah, there's two numbers that you were showing, like the
Yeah,
royalty and then the trading profits. Like,
oh, okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think that will vary quite a bit. It's dependent on many factors. So one is like where to start. Okay, so like one is it's dependent on the trading volume on Jupiter, which in turn is going to be dependent on other market makers. So how competitive, how, or yeah, so there's going to be other market makers, especially on Serum. And the question is, how aggressively are they quoting, like how narrow of a spread are they quoting on Sol USDC and MSol USDC? So that will affect it. Because if their spreads are wider, that means we get more volume and generate more trading fees. So there's that. And then this is not something we're doing yet, but eventually we'll add more pools, and then we will automatically optimize the pools in which we're depositing the flares as liquidity. So in total, like flares have 20K plus worth of SOL of liquidity, even though like part of it is in USDC, of course. But yeah, we'll continually adjust that to optimize the trading fees for them. So it depends on like what pools we have and what APRs each pool is able to generate. But of course, that is also dependent on other LPs depositing in the pools. Because if more people deposit, like I explained earlier, especially past the target liquidity point, then it can start to decrease profits. So actually, we have a mechanism to disincentivize people from depositing beyond the target liquidity. Probably not worth getting into details right this moment. But anyways, so yeah, there's many factors that will affect it. So it's like if I gave a projection, it probably wouldn't be very meaningful. So I'm just not gonna.
Sure. Thanks.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for the questions. All right. No more requests to speak at the moment. All right, so back to Discord. Let me take a sip. All right. Binox asks, is the integration of new pools a difficult process, dependent on Jupyter to implement? So it can be automated, and that's what we're working on right now. Like every time we add a pool, it just automatically gets integrated into Jupyter. That's what we're working on. So this will save us time in the future. So yeah. Secondly, tuning pools. Is this done via Jupyter or another custom-made administration platform? This is not done via Jupyter. And but wait, by tuning pools, I assume you mean like choosing the level of concentration and the rebalancing factor. And let's see, were there other parameters? But like stuff like that. Yeah, Jupyter is totally unrelated to that. And it's also not automated. Like basically, you have to do a bunch of data analysis to figure out what's best. So yeah, the team is doing those fine-tuning processes. And Banach says the bot is sometimes called Mr. Hungry. All right, JY3D says, I see the benefit of POL and how locking, or I should say, I see the benefit of protocol owned liquidity and how locking makes it grow faster. Lifinity token doesn't have a guarantee to any treasury, does it? Yeah, so like there is no redemption mechanism. You can't be like, hey protocol, I'll give you some Lifinity, please give me back LP tokens. There is no such functionality. You can sell your Lifinity for USDC and then buy LP tokens, of course, but yeah, that is kind of the whole point of this protocol owned liquidity in general. Like it's so that the protocol owns it and it's final and there's no way to withdraw it in any way. Yeah. Then continuing says, is the way value of the Lifinity token keeps afloat? So I'm going to reread it. Is the way the Lifinity token keeps its value from buybacks of the token from the treasury? So it is from buybacks. And those come from the revenue generated. So we get into the more details on this in part 4. But the TLDR is that 50% of the revenue that's generated using the protocol owned liquidity is distributed to holders, VE Lifinity holders, and then the other 50% is used for buybacks. So yeah, that will be a huge factor contributing to increasing the value of Lifinity. Boom. Let's see. Any speakers? Nope. All right. Well, we've reached the end of all our questions. Any last minute questions? All right. Looks like everyone's been satisfied. Thank you, everyone, for all the great questions. And yeah, thanks for joining the AMA. Appreciate it. Let's see. Anything coming up? I guess next we'll have part 3 of our tokenomics being released pretty soon. We'll be covering voting and bribing. So if you're familiar with the curve wars, you can see some similarities in how our tokenomics will play out. Bribing will be great because it'll be an additional source of passive income for VE Lifinity holders. So yeah, stay tuned for the details on that. And yeah, thanks again for joining. Until next time, cheers.